morning, everyone. My name is Matt Taylor. I'm with the Colchester Adult Learning Association. I've also been on the project committee team for this conference. And I'm here to introduce Barb Welsford. Barb is going to present her session, which is called Mobile Technology to Enhance Performance of Individuals with Learning Difficulties. Thank you.
So don't pay any attention to the title of the slide up there. As was mentioned, I'm Barb Welsford. I'm actually the Assistive Technology Specialist for the South Shore Regional School Board. And I've been in the field of assistive technology for over 25 years. And I've actually done a lot of contracts in a previous life with the Adult Learning Network. We developed a whole literacy training tool and package a number of years ago, had it published, etc. But that's beside the point. I work with little guys in the early intervention program 1 year prior to them entering school as part of my AT specialist job at the South Shore Regional School Board. And I work with all the students that are referred to us with learning difficulties, physical disabilities, learning disabilities, cognitive delays, etc. From K to 12. And I also teach adults in the graduate programs for St. FX University, Mount St. Vincent University, and Acadia University. And I've been doing that for quite a long time. So I kind of work with everybody. So just to start, how many people are teachers here, adult teachers? Okay, great. How many people use mobile technology? How many people have an iPhone or an Android or whatever? Excellent, because honestly, it's changing the face of education and it's changing the face of assistive technology supporting learners with disabilities. So I just want to preface my presentation. I'm going to get into, after my keynote, I want to get into getting right into demonstrating some apps on some of the top apps we utilize to provide access for students with different disabilities. I'll show you accessibility options built into iOS 7 on the iPad, iPhone, iPad mini, etc., which is very exciting. And we'll talk about how we can provide access to information, specifically print-based information, which is difficult for many learners, and also how your students can express your knowledge using mobile devices. And we can also talk about mobile devices in the workplace if that interests you as well, because all of what we're going to show you today transfers across the lifespan, really. I think you realize that when you're using your phone every single day to text or tweet or access information, to send messages. And anyway, I'll expand on that. One thing we're doing in the South Shore Regional School Board, anybody here from that area? Yes? Great. We are going one-to-one iPads with every single student. And the reason why we go one-to-one is with iPads is because of its universal design capacity, meaning almost any student can pick up an iPad and utilize it. Students who are blind, students who have severe physical disabilities, students with cognitive delays, students with learning disabilities can now use these devices on the go 24/7 in the classroom, in the cafeteria, in the library, to engage in information and output their information as well. So I'm going to demonstrate some of that. But the other thing that ties nicely into this is universal design for learning. Who knows what that term is? Good. Okay, well, I'll explain it, so don't worry. And I'm not going to quiz anybody either.
I saw that before.
Universal design for learning really focuses in on starting with the curriculum and making sure the curriculum is accessible to all students in your classroom. And how we can do that is also tie in the mobile technology to be able to access that accessible curriculum. And I think it'll just gel together once you see that. So again, I realize you are all working with adults, but This technology transfers beautifully to adult use, both for teaching and for your learners. So a little bit about UDL. The origins really stem from architecture. So you might have a curb cut or a ramp, which doesn't just benefit an individual with who's in a wheelchair. It can benefit anybody, including a young mom, including the delivery person, anybody walking up the ramp. They can just find that much more easy to access the building. And it provides access for anybody. So universal design, when you really start looking, is actually everywhere. We have adapted eating utensils, we have adapted keyboards, we have closed captioning on YouTube, or built right into the iPads. You can turn closed captioning on for students who are ESL students and also students who have hearing impairments. And in the education field, with that focus on universal design for learning, essentially it's an approach to teaching learning as an assessment, as it says here, and addressing the fact that your whole class has variances, right? And we should be celebrating those variances, not just teaching to one learner. And of course, when it comes to assessment, universal design for learning avoids this kind of examination. And this is a very popular cartoon. You can find it on the web. Just Google UDL exam image and it'll pop up. So you see the standard assessment of climbing the tree, thinking that it's fair, everybody will do the same activity. But of course the elephant can't, the fish certainly can't climb the tree. So if the focus initially was on addressing the diversity in the classroom and designing the assessment and the learning information from that point of view, then everybody would be able to access and it would be a fair assessment. So UDL principles, representing information from the teacher perspective. You're representing information in a variety of ways. You're ensuring that there's engagement, motivation, and thus enhanced learning with your students. And they're also given choices to express their knowledge. So it's not just writing, which is a huge barrier for so many of our students. You might be offering them an activity to express their knowledge by voice recording, or voice to text, or using word prediction, or making a movie, or making a pic collage, depending upon the strengths of the individual. So why do we incorporate UDL? Because it simply makes sense. And also, we want to ensure that the information and the assessments are accessible to all students. And that's acknowledging that all students learn differently. And again, we're celebrating that. These are some benefits. And by the way, I have a Dropbox folder for all of you. I'll give you the link at the end of the session that you can access these handouts. So benefits just make sense. Enhanced access to information, enhanced engagement, more motivated learning. More learning is happening because students can access the information more readily. We're empowering the students to become more self-directed, which is really our jobs. In the K-12 system, we're focusing on developing independent learners so they can go to post-secondary or to programs like yours and practice independent learning. Because in the workforce, there's not going to be a scribe, right? Who has a scribe in their jobs? Not many people. Again, enhancing independent learners. It will reduce your workload in the future as a teacher. And again, we're ensuring that it's accessible to all learners. So a little more detail, teaching using UDL. and I'll just whip through this. We're representing information digitally through video, through audio, through print, so everybody can access. And of course, with the mobile technology, that can be, the focus of that is they're affordable devices, they're accessible devices, they're mobile, meaning they can go anywhere and you can learn anywhere, anytime. Multiple means of engagement. So again, you're giving students, your learners, lots of choices on how you're engaging in those activities. It's not just reading and it's not just writing. So this is the one that's most exciting to me, is I mentioned it earlier, allowing students to express their knowledge in different ways. So they're, again, not just writing, they're not just typing, they might be making a movie, they might be doing a play, they might be verbally expressing, participating in a debate. It doesn't necessarily have to be technology-based, but the technology and assistive technology comes into play depending upon the diversity in your classroom and also the students with disabilities. So you saw Tyler, who has cerebral palsy, accessing the iPad with his tongue. Direct selection, most efficient. He's in grade 10 now, obviously going to grade 11, will be going to community college or university, and that's how he accesses all his information, and that's how he outputs. So these are just examples of how we use the iPad to engage all learners. And this is a really nice infographic. Again, I've provided this to you in the Dropbox link to give you some ideas of different ways students can show what they know. And it's again up to you how you evaluate those different ways of showing what you know or expressing knowledge, but it still allows access for the diversity in your classroom to be able to do that. So this comes to why iPads and why UDL and iPads for all. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll get into the accessibility options built into these beautiful universally designed devices. But first we have to understand what assistive technology is. And assistive technology is necessary for the diversity of students in your classroom to access universally designed curriculum. Okay, so you can't, for many students like Tyler, students who are blind, they can't access the curriculum without the assistive tech. When in our school board, nothing ever goes out without an assessment, and I do the assessment along with another individual who works in the center. So assistive tech is all about enhancing performance of an individual with a disability. Okay, it starts always with the individual and providing them an opportunity to allow independent access to a task. Okay, so we want to foster that independence. It is a process. It's not just, okay, this looks good for you, this app or this software might be good for you, here you go, and walk away. Because it's a huge process to make it I don't want to scare you, but to make it really work and be long-term and be effective for your learners and for you as teachers, you have to remember it's a process. And in the school system, it always starts at the program planning process. And there is always, always change that will affect your assistive technology. I mean, think about just the last 4 years or 5 years. We've gone from computer technology, big units at the side of the classroom, even laptops, and now we're much more mobile, more flexible, affordable, and much more effective. That change has been just so dramatic for our students and for our teachers. It's easy to learn, and again, it's much more accessible. So the assistive technology, the iPads, when we're using it as assistive technology to provide access to information and expression for students with disabilities, there's no question it'll change over time. And assistive technology is not restricted to information technology, so don't get confused with that. in our board, sometimes it's thought that the IT tech guys can provide supports to students with disabilities, but it's a pretty specialized field. So it's not IT. And again, UDL can still be implemented with varying degrees of technology depending upon the diversity in your class. When we do assessments, we look at the student first, always there at the center. The technology really comes into play a little ways down the line in terms of the assessment. We look at the skill sets and the needs of the individual student. We look at the milieu, meaning who is in that classroom, for example, that can support that student, what are their skill sets. So you as secondary users, if I was doing an assessment, and I have done lots of adult learner assessments, and I make recommendations also based on their needs, but also what kind of learning has to come into play for the secondary users, meaning the teachers, to ensure success of that assistive technology in that learning situation. So the milieu is really, really important. And honestly, it doesn't happen without training. The task is really critical. We look at what are you asking the student to do? Are you asking the student to read? Are you asking the student, we have kids who are nonverbal using these devices to communicate. Do they need to communicate? Do they need to write? Do they need to make a movie? The task often is what really defines the variety of assistive technology we recommend. And then the characteristics of the technology itself is really important because easier is better. And this is another reason why this technology, the mobile technology today, the uptake is just huge because it's so easy to use, both for your learners and your teachers. There's absolutely no question. And remembering too that these factors are constantly changing with time. They affect each other and they also are affected by the graduation of time. And if you think about it, that just makes sense. So Tyler, we started working with him in early intervention, the little guy with cerebral palsy. Now he's in grade 10. Think of the change within him, the change within his environment, the change of task over those years, and it will continue to change. And it's actually very exciting. There you go. Everything changes. So originally, this is the task. And I know we still do this today, and even our South Shore board is moving along really rapidly with technology integration, doing great things. We still have the paper and pencil tasks. So the reading activity, the great graphic organizer, the fill in the blank or the multiple choice, and the short word answer. Think of the number of I shouldn't say kids, the learners, adult learners that you're working with who can't access this task. So once we're talking about compensatory strategies, I think Annie Baird was anyone in Annie Baird's presentation on compensatory strategies providing access to the task for adult learners with disabilities? This is where this discussion is going to lead. The kicker is you might have, and we certainly have in the school system, a K-12 system, a huge diversity in our classrooms. So we can have a student who is blind, for sure going to have students with autism, Asperger's, no question 2 or 3 students with learning disabilities. And those are different learning disabilities, so dysgraphia, dyslexia, etc. And executive function issues, it just continues. So the idea is that paper and pencil traditional task is not going to be accessible to all those students. And yes, you can differentiate, but differentiation means looking at each student and retrofitting the activity to those students. Universal design is looking at the curriculum first and making sure it's accessible to all students. That's what's so exciting about it. And actually, Department of Ed is really on board with that. We're doing a UDL project funded by Department of Ed at Hevville Academy, and it's gaining huge success, both from teachers and students. So accessibility options in the iPad, iPod Touch, iPhone, iPad Mini. Many of the other Android devices have third-party accessibility options which you download. Why we like the iPads and the Apple devices is because all of these are built in, and I will demonstrate these to you in the future. We're also experiencing a convergence of technologies, and this is also what makes these mobile devices so exciting. And this is what convergence of technology means. I mean, just think about what your phone can do. What can your phone do? Everything. It can be pretty much everything. It can be a chessboard, it can be a Zen garden, it can be a tutor. Think about that. Access to video tutorials for adult learners. They can pause, they can learn at their own pace, they can reference it, they could communicate with you through Skype, they could get information through Twitter. It can be an encyclopedia, it can be a whole library. It will provide text-to-speech, you can do voice-to-text. So it's accessible to almost every learner for many, many, many different purposes. And allows us to do activities like this. So Tyler has cerebral palsy. He has no control over his extremities. He has a mounting system we set up on his wheelchair. And now he can engage in this music activity in his classroom. And look how happy he is. So that's inclusion, and he's a very bright student. So UDL is, again, all about utilizing iPads, other devices, etc., to enhance performance and access and engagement in the curriculum. I'm just going to whip through this. Principles of UDL really focuses on recognizing that diversity and variance of abilities are in our classroom, and we're celebrating those differences. And it actually is very exciting. And this is critical. If you want more information on UDL, cast.org. They're the actual gurus of universal design for learning. But their comment is, and their research is showing that the curriculum should be adaptable to the individual, not the other way around. And we're working on that as well with Department of Ed. And it's the curriculum that has the disability. And this is why. So many of the print-based, the textbooks, etc., is just simply not accessible to so many students. Right? If you think about it, textbooks, which cost a fortune, but a student who is blind, students with learning disabilities who can't decode the text, students with attention deficit, really difficult, students with visual impairments, students with physical disabilities like Tyler, he can't manipulate independently that textbook, but he can access that iPad. And so can many other students. And this is telling as well. So when it comes to testing students, we also want to employ a UDL perspective and be thinking about what traditional tests don't evaluate. And really, this is what you and I practice every single day in the workplace. And the pen and paper tests and assessments certainly do not evaluate these features. So, principles of UDL. These are apps that are just a small example, because I'll tell you, you can get overwhelmed with the App Store, but the options are just phenomenal. So these are apps that can allow you as a teacher to represent information in different ways, to enhance engagement, motivation. We have SoundAmp, the app that does this. It's a sound amplification app for $5, which can allow a student with hearing impairment, maybe sitting at the back of the class, they'll plug in, launch that app, and that's their hearing aid. We have Air Server software that costs $3, which I could have set up today, that allows me to mirror my screen through the computer and project up on the screen wirelessly. And the other neat feature about that is every one of you, if you had an iPad, you could take over and project up on the screen right from your seat. So $3 software, Air Server. We have apps that you type in a sentence and it will produce sign language, English sign language related to that sentence immediately. We can add closed captioning to all our videos, do Keynote. We can do Google searches with voice. Lots and lots of different ways you can represent your information out to your students. And to me, this is most exciting, varying the ways that students can express what they know. So these also, I'm going to show you a lot of these apps in a few minutes. So it's not just reading the textbook and filling, not that you do that, I'm not saying that at all, but remember, once you're presenting that hard copy text, it's pretty fixed and it's difficult on paper to manipulate that text to make it accessible to all students. And the iPad, really the third principle of universal design for learning, and also case in point of why the iPad is so effective to meet UDL outcomes, design curriculum outcomes, is that it's simply motivating in itself using an iPad. You have more engagement of your learners and they are learning more. And this is what our action research in the South Shore board is definitely showing. I have provided this to you in the Dropbox link. This is my handout for this session. So this is universal design for learning. Multiple means, this one is multiple means of representing information. And you have at the top a general list of apps that you can utilize to diversify your representing your information. But it also, on the next few lines, provide lists of apps for students with learning difficulties specifically related to reading and writing, executive function difficulties, focusing, engagement, attention, and so on. Students with physical disabilities, vision impairment, hearing impairment, and the bottom one is more students who are nonverbal and cognitive delay. So that's representing information. This one is multiple means of expression. And some of the apps, many of the apps do cross over from representation to expression. And this is another, we call these placemats, multiple means of engagement. And a little information, and this is an infographic on about 100 apps that you can use to have students express what they know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My eyesight's just not that great all the time. I didn't see anything there for math, or maybe that was just an oversight.
Oh, back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to, there are apps for math in there, and I'm going to be demonstrating some apps for math. And also, if you want to see anything specifically, probably this is an iPad Air that's 128 gigs. I probably have the app on here. I don't have the whole app store on my iPad, but some days it seems like it. So again, just think of just so many different ways you can engage your adult learner, and also think about what those skill sets, just using the iPad, will give them once they graduate, they get their GED and go into the workplace, because it's highly transferable. So this is just a really nice comic about UDL and changing the mindsets of teachers, of parents, and getting them to refocus from a UDL perspective. So there's a little guy, because the print is small, I'll just explain it. A little guy in a wheelchair on the left there, and he goes, "Could you please shovel the ramp?" And the shoveler is saying, "All these other kids are waiting to get up the stairs. When I get through shoveling the stairs, then I'll shovel the ramp." And then the little guy goes, "But if you shovel the ramp first, we can all get in." Make sense? You can find that online, and it's a nice reference, and was actually designed by a student with special needs. Okay, so that's just the groundwork. Are there any questions at all? I know UDL might be a kind of a new term. You're probably already doing it as teachers with your adult learners. But if they're still struggling, it might be just worth switching up how they're accessing the information, how you're representing the information, and see what the outcome is. Yes?
With learners, adult learners who are on, really basic financial needs, the layout for an iPad with enough memory to sort of utilize this, is that not a sort of a barrier?
No. And let me just step back a second and mention, it's the same with computer technology, right? Which is not inexpensive, laptops, etc. Netbooks are maybe $200, but we've never recommended a netbook for a student. And I should mention too that in the last 2 years, we haven't even pulled out our laptops in the Assistive Tech Center. We are focusing, just because of these devices are so flexible and accessible to all students, accessing information in the classroom and producing information, that's what we're providing. So a 16 gig iPad mini is plenty. And we never, for students, would never recommend anything above that unless they're in a graphic arts and they're making movies and things like that. Your students probably don't need a whole lot of apps, and you want to kind of limit the gaming apps, which do tend to take a lot of memory. So 16 gigabyte. An iPad mini is for education price $299 for 16 gigabytes.
A lot of the learners, the adult learners, don't even have computers because it's out of the price range.
Yeah.
They're on social assistance.
The only
Yeah.
thing is we do have the learner support fund. We've had almost no uptake on it. We'd buy, if there was an order tomorrow for 30 of these, they'd be done.
Yeah.
Just put it in. If you've got a learner who you think needs this, just identify what apps you want, and it'll be done.
So there's always a way. And there are grants out there, or at least there used to be, but I'm pretty sure there are grants out there. You can run projects and really just get them in the hands of these individuals, because honestly, many of these individuals need this technology to be able to access information, work in their jobs. We have apps that can read labels on a can of beans on the bookshelf, read it aloud instantly, right? So that's functional skills. And we also have tons of apps that will do video modeling for basic literacy. I can show you some of that in the workplace and beyond. So it's really critical. I never look at the barrier. Money is all, no matter what education, I'm going to hide because they're videotaping this, but there's always barriers cost-wise and financially, but in my opinion, there's always workarounds for that to get the devices in the hands of those students who need it. So let me show you a few things that you might or might not know. This is access to information for a variety of students. So we're not just talking learning disability students who can't read or have difficulties decoding text, comprehending, retention, expression, and so on. These are varieties. So you go into the Settings app, and this is where these devices are truly examples of universally designed devices. So I go into General, I tap on Accessibility, and if you can see it up there, we have VoiceOver. VoiceOver allows people who are blind to access information. Who knew that? People who are blind have access to any information, any apps, etc., on the iPad by using VoiceOver. So who's worked with students who are blind before? Adults who are blind? Anybody? Yeah? So this is like screen reading software on a stationary computer at the side of the room accessing information. They can do that right at their desk now. And if you don't believe me, what you can do is go to YouTube. I know everybody knows what YouTube is. And do a search for individuals who are blind using iPads. And there's this young guy there. He's posted a self-made movie on using VoiceOver with the iPad, and he's totally blind. His name is Shane, and it'll blow you away. What it does is, do you want to see it? Yeah, I find it very tricky. You have to read the directions. This is in iOS 7, but they have had VoiceOver since they introduced the iPod Touches and iPhones. So if I turn it on, tap once to select an item, double tap to activate the item, and swipe 3 fingers to scroll. So you have to follow the directions. Someone who's blind is going to have a really organized screen, not have 3,000 apps on their device, and they're going to probably be doing very specific things on their iPad. And so this is what it does. I hope I can...
VoiceOver on. Landscape.
So
Home button to the right.
I'm going to hit the home
LT
button.
access.
And you
Heading.
see it's
Text
going to
view.
read. It's opened that. If I want to go into iBooks, I tap it
Double
once.
tap to open.
And so
iBooks.
it's reading everything on the
iBooks.
screen.
Store button.
Okay? So now
LT
my job
access.
is to get
Settings.
back and turn it off.
Settings. VoiceOver.
I tap
on.
once, double tap.
VoiceOver on.
I did it. I always get stuck in that loop there. But so everything on your device, I can read books by tapping through. And again, it makes your iPad into a screen reader. We do not use it. I don't recommend it for students with LD because we have other settings on the iPad that allow you to select the text and have it read aloud.
What does Braille?
Yeah, so your iPads can also hook up to Braille printers. And so it goes way beyond just doing screen reading, okay? And you hook up those printers through Bluetooth. So there are lots of other options there. You've got language and dialects, phonetic feedback, many settings that allow you to really individualize it for the user. Okay, so I can also change the rate of speech feedback, which I'll show you a little later as well. So Zoom is another accessibility feature that you do need to read the directions. And if you've got a device out, take a look at this. But make sure you read the directions because you can get stuck and then you have to just think carefully about how to get out of it. So double tap 3 fingers to zoom and drag the 3 fingers to move around your screen. Remember, you got adult users. You've got older users who might have visual impairments. They need magnification in every single level of your iPad, not just zooming out on in your book or on the internet. Okay, so I've got zoom on. So I'm going to tap that. Notice how it doesn't transfer as quite well, but oop. So I can go up really high. Oh, it's not transferring, but because of the LCD. But if you want to look, you can see how high I can actually magnify my screen. And then you just have to remember how to magnify or navigate once you're in there. You and I are probably really good at this level. You just double tap with 3 fingers to get back to normal. But that will transfer over to any single app that you're using, and once you've launched. So Zoom applies to every app that you're running. I can invert colors, so this one again doesn't transfer usually through the LCD, but black on white on black. And believe it or not, some students with LD love that feature. It just, whether it's novel or not, I'm not sure. The next one, speak selection, is the most exciting one that came into play on the Apple mobile devices with iOS 5, and that's speak selection. So how many of you guys work with students who have learning difficulties decoding text? So they might have dyslexia, auditory processing. Okay, so you might want to, instead of this, provide them alternate access to the text, right? So they're not, you're not handing this out to them and saying, let's decode. You're providing them a compensatory strategy so they can access the information. Really, that's what it's about, accessing the information. And speak selection, once that's turned on, allows you to do this. Who knows Kurzweil? Kurzweil. Okay, so there's lots of other ones as well. Kurzweil was our premier text-to-speech. You scan a document on the computer with an OCR scanner, converts it to text, and you have it read aloud to the student. Hugely expensive, again on the computer. This is essentially Kurzweil to go, text-to-speech to go, and is free on your mobile devices. So I can change the rate of speech feedback.
Speak selection reads selected content.
I can individualize.
Speak selection reads selected content.
You and I
Speak selection reads selected content.
You and I process auditory information at about 150 words per minute, but some people, especially students with learning difficulties, might need it slower, some might need it faster. So again, you can individualize with these devices. And you can also highlight words as it reads aloud. So if you have a device, turn that on, and I'll just demonstrate to you. This is just a search online in my Safari app for elephants. Just any search will do. While I'm showing you this though, Wikipedia, some people don't really encourage use of it, but in my mind it's pretty good. So on the left sidebar, this is a lot of information, right? A lot of our learners, too much. I can tweak out and pinch out and make it larger. But on the languages on the left sidebar in Wikipedia, I can actually go down and select Simple English. And let me do that again. This did this to me last night too. And what it does is reduce the amount of text on that page so it's more accessible. So think about that. If I had
do that on an
iPad, computer, that's on Wikipedia. Simple English. It doesn't have it available for every single posting. And there are also, but just take a look if you need to reduce. So that means that once that text is digitized, if this was that document on elephants, I wouldn't be able to do that. Why not? Let's pretend this is the document, the original document on elephants. Why couldn't I change that instantly in hard copy? Come on, anyway.
By the time you do it, like you'd have to redo the whole.
Oh yeah, you'd have to scan it, you'd have to go through, probably rephrase everything and type it out. It's just, really, it's not going to happen. Once you digitize text, it allows you to manipulate that text and make it accessible to all. So that was the simple English example in Wikipedia, but also I'm demonstrating speak selection. So on the iPad with that turned on in accessibility options, I can tap on it, hold it down really lightly, select the text, and
Elephants are the largest living land mammals.
and now it's
1.
accessible to those students who have difficulty decoding. Right at your desk, on your iPhone, on your iPad mini. The other very cool thing that I love about these devices, actually I'll show this when I'm in the iBook textbooks. This is where textbooks are going too, is digitized enhanced textbooks that offer so much more engagement and learning. So I can select any amount and have it read aloud. I can have it read aloud as many times as I need it to, and it allows me access. And that's because I set turn speech selection on in the accessibility options. Okay? And in every iPad we hand out in our school system, that's turned on, every single one. So it can benefit lots of different students. Tyler, cerebral palsy. He needs the text, he can read. He's an awesome reader, but he constantly moves around in his chair. So think of that visual access to that information isn't great, and he likes to keep up with his classmates. So we have him on the text-to-speech in different apps, not necessarily speak selection, but he does use text-to-speech so he can keep up. So I can assign larger text to onboard apps easily. If I have a visual impairment, kids with LD like to type in larger text. So those are in Mail, you're using your Notes app, etc. It'll automatically, it's called dynamic type, be transferred to a larger text. If you're typing into Mail and it's larger, it won't send it out to you on your iPhone in a huge text. It'll transfer regularly. Okay, so think about that. I can increase contrast. Reduce motion means just that in the new iOS 7, they added some bounce features to some animation features to opening apps, closing apps, but it's not a good feature for some students with visual impairments or learning disabilities. So this is where you would turn it off in accessibility options.
Which one would that be?
That's the reduced motion.
Oh, okay.
Hearing aids, I can connect through Bluetooth with a number of hearing aids. If you're a Bluetooth-enabled hearing aid, which many of them are now, I can connect it directly to my iPad and provide access. This is where I would turn on closed captioning for ESL students and students with LD perhaps, also students with hearing impairments who really benefit from that and enhance access to the movies that might be shown. You probably don't know about this. We use this sometimes with adult learners depending upon the task. And this might be, that's very beneficial for really young kids, guided access. Who knows about this? Who has young kids using your iPhone? Okay, so sometimes you put them in an app or in a testing situation and you don't want them in another app, you would employ guided access to restrict them to one app, okay? So guided access, I'm just going to turn that on. I'm going to set the passcode as the secondary user. You're not showing it to the main user. I'm going to tap the home button and let's just go out. I'll just choose a simple, let's see, what? These are our favorite kid apps. for little guys. So you launch the app, but remember this could be any app. It could be Safari. You want to lock them into one app.
Welcome to More Trucks.
Okay.
Choose a truck.
So see how versatile these devices are? I've gone from reading the web with accessibility options set to being able to entertain my young child at the restaurant. Okay, so what I want to do is have this student just moving forward. So I have accessibility options set. I'm going to triple click on the home button. Can you see? Assign guided access. And hold on, I'll turn that down just because it's annoying. So I just want them moving forward. I don't want them hitting a home button and going back to the beginning. So with this feature, guided access, I can choose the part, just with my finger, part of the activity that allows a student to choose another option within the app. And
Blocking it when you do that?
you're actually making it deactivated to touch, okay? And then I hit start, and all I can do now is move forward. See that touch up there? And so I'm moving forward. This is a really fun app for adults too. You collect the stars. Anyway, the point is some kids, if it's a math activity or whatever, or young adult or adult, they might want to hit the home button, go check their mail, right? Well, you want them moving forward. So if they hit the home button, what happens is it says guided access is enabled, and you actually have to triple click to get out of this app. So if I triple click, what happens is the passcode comes up. If you've shown them the passcode, that's your problem. But if you're the teacher, then what you're going to do is put in the passcode and end guided access. Very, very valuable. With my mom, who's 95 years old, she needed the enlarged text in books. And, but I was really hesitant to get her an iPad. And when the iPad mini came out, she's like this tall, teeny tiny. And I'm not a technology user. So when the iPad mini came out with iBooks, it was a great opportunity to give her enlarged text. But I was really concerned about her getting out of the one app and into wherever. She doesn't have wireless in her house, so that's okay. I set her up initially in guided access, locked her into iBooks, into one specific book. She didn't understand the whole touching thing, and just gently introduced her to iBooks with guided access. She couldn't get out, and now she doesn't need it anymore because she's used to the process. Like 3, 4, 6 months later, she's pretty independent, and but she needed to start with guided access. So locked into one app. Yeah, I got a lot of phone calls still, but it's a great feature to apply in many different ways. So keep that in mind, guided access. And that's in your settings app. I'm not going to show you this, but I will explain it. Built into this device, you have switch access. How many people might work with, of course you never know who's going to walk in the door, right? Or wheel through the door in a wheelchair in terms of our learners. But who's worked with students with physical disabilities? So they might use switch access to, historically it was the computer. So they're not directly accessing the keyboard, but they're hitting a switch with switch scanning software and accessing information and producing information. Switch control built right into the iPads. And I've never seen another tablet with that feature. Okay, so I can make this whole screen into my switch, or I can have external switches, and that student would be accessing that information. I'm not saying it's easy. It requires quite a bit of cognitive ability and even physical accuracy ability to hit that switch when it's appropriate, but it is built right in. Very exciting. And the other thing is assistive touch, which if someone cannot direct target select and they don't have that control, they might have muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, and might have a swipe gesture. Remember, not able to direct select. You can program in through assistive touch their gesture and have it respond as a direct selection touch. So again, you get the reason why we're going iPads is because it's so versatile, flexible, and accessible to all. Any questions? Because now I get into the fun stuff. I mean, it's all fun, right? But okay, I'm going to do some of this really quickly because I've been talking a lot. But iBooks is this is where textbooks are going. So hopefully in the adult learning world, through various means, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, all their textbooks eventually are going to be digitized, and they're already offering digitized text. But the really exciting part about digitizing text is anyone, because of accessibility options, can now access this textbook. Whereas before, you hand out the textbook, you have a huge variety of students in your class, or your student who you're tutoring might not be able to access it. So let me go here. When you launch into you guys are all going to want to go back to school after I show you this. Enhanced textbooks in iBooks. You get into the book, and this is what shows. Oh. This is a textbook, you guys. How different is that from when, well, some of you are younger. Many of you are younger than me, but this is your textbook. So does that make you want to just dive into this textbook on science, life on Earth? Yeah. Not only that, I also have the capability, let me go, I can maneuver through really quickly into any of the areas. I can also, or chapters I should say. So now I'm working through, I can access this through VoiceOver, so students who are blind. Look at the quality on my iPad Air is phenomenal. I can also select, as we did before, and have it spoken aloud.
Technology is fascinating.
Okay. The other very cool thing is, and really you can't do that with your regular textbook, can you? Unless someone's reading it for you, which does not create independence. But I love this feature too for all our learners. I can select that just by touching really lightly. And you see I have speak, search, note. I can add a little note to, like this is on the test, or I can highlight that information, but I can also instantly search the web, and built into this book is a dictionary, but I can also go out to Wikipedia for those visual learners, and go to Google Image or Yahoo Image, and now I have access to a visual definition just from selecting that word in my digital textbook. And not only that, I can go tap on that and save that image to my photo library and use it in my writing document. So did I have to go to the side of the room to get my dictionary, which a lot of students aren't going to do, adults in particular, right? I can access the information because it's read aloud to me. I can engage more in my textbook because it's not just decoding text. Here's another thing that's a nice feature. There I have closed caption assigned. Oh, I turned down the volume. Oh, here.
And have remained the same for all cells ever since.
So my student who is hearing impairment, who can't access the video, has closed captioning.
Instructions in DNA. All organisms
Okay, so think about that, and you can actually engage. This is, let's see what this is, cellularity.
All living things are made of cells.
You can engage in a lot
A
of.
walk in the sun can take up energy. Life is different.
So it just is a much different way of accessing information, engaging in the information, and learning. And so as the teacher, you could become facilitators. I'm going to show you another feature of this just by highlighting. Also these books are fairly reasonably priced compared to regular textbooks. What's another advantage of digitized textbooks? In terms of,
Trees,
pardon?
like saving trees, paper.
Saving trees,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, reducing CO2, producing more oxygen, et cetera, for sure. But what about updating information? Honestly, some libraries I go to where there's books on that we're going to go to the moon one day. And updating information instantly by the book can be uploaded to the iBook bookstore. You have the book on your iBook bookshelf, and you have a notice that there's an update. So you're not reading dated material. That's huge. That's huge. You can't do that if you don't have digitized text. But I'm just going to show you, I can highlight information. Of course, it's up to you as the teacher to teach students how to highlight and what to highlight. But once I highlight important information, let me just show you how I can add a note. So if I add a note here, I'm going to show you another feature. It'll probably blow you away. I'm hoping it will anyway. So your students who have difficulty with written output, but these are the learners who they can tell you all about what they know, or about the organisms, or about what was just read to them, or what they read. But you're getting minimal amount of written output, whether it's from a pen or typing. So, but these are the students with great expressive language. I'm not gonna do a sentence that relates to the book right now, but I'm just gonna demonstrate. I'm using Siri built into these devices. Today I am demonstrating Siri on the iPad and voice output. Okay, so see what it did? Voice to text. And that is valid. That's that student, and I can also do that with Siri built into my keyboard. Those are your newer devices. I can go into any app and do voice to text. So mail, I can do searches on the web, I can do pages, Keynote, etc. And all of those, anywhere you're typing, you have that option to do voice to text. But the other neat feature when you're highlighting is I can go, this is a textbook, right? So all my highlights come up, and that I just did on whatever page throughout the whole book. And I can also export all of those out by email or select all. And I can transfer those into, it's gonna, notes from, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, it's got all the notes, and I can pick them up in my mail, transfer them over to my writing app. Okay, so those are enhanced textbooks. Includes video. You have capability to interact with your textbooks. You can actually make textbooks in iBook Author on the Mac computers. And there are quizzes that engage the user at the end of every chapter. It's just an amazing way you can enhance engagement and learning in readers. Very quickly, this is another series of apps called Crack the Books. And this is what I love about this app and this series of apps. It's got the media, it's got audio, and beautiful audio. You can set different settings. again, pertaining to the individual user, which you can't not do in hard copy text. But this is the first app I've seen that does this. And for some of you, you might have quite diverse readers when you're teaching your courses. As you see, I can go to chapter 1, and this has video. It has all sorts of things as well. I can have the text read aloud. But what's really neat about this series of apps called Crack the Books is that you can change the reading level within the book immediately. Okay, so and this is the first app I've seen that allows that feature, but I guarantee you that's going to only increase. So I could, if you had a student at a higher reading level, you give them, might assign them to level 5, and you see the differences in the actual text that's presented, higher level text. So that's pretty exciting, don't you agree? And you cannot do that with hard copy text, obviously.
Is
So
this a free app?
no. But I don't think it's that expensive per app. You know, might in this particular, it might be $12. You'd have to look at what. But still, I mean, I'm just showing you what's available. There are pictures, videos. There's maps. You can engage with the planet here and interact nicely with all the features and learn about seashores to sea floors. And they have a number of other books. So when you go to the iTunes store, that's something to look at. So when you're in iBooks, who reads iBook or buys books from iBooks? Anybody? Well, you pay, right? So you pay. But with this app, who uses Netflix? Come on, you guys. Netflix, $8 a month, and you access 1 million videos. Scribd app, you get an account, same as Netflix, but for books. And you can speak, select, and read aloud. And so I'll just demonstrate. You can load them onto your device for $8 a month, and you just read. So this is what my mom uses, because she was putting me out of house and home. Pardon?
Do they disappear after the month, or you can keep them?
They stay until you, well, they're going to stay until you read them. You can delete them off your device, right? So
every month new ones get added, I guess? Or
yeah, you just go back.
same as
I mean,
Netflix.
there's thousands and thousands of books that you have to choose from.
Some will stay there and you can read them again.
Yeah.
Like Netflix.
You pay $10 with conversion because it's US. But so tons and tons of books that you have access to, and you can select, or at least I could last night. There I go. So the same features I can have access to in iBooks or in Scribd and have it read aloud as well. Remember, audiobooks is another feature. You probably utilize those. Okay, Scribd, SCRIBD, the Netflix of books. It's excellent. So Navidis. Navidis is a really cool app for students with dyslexia. But lots of people really like this, including students and adults with visual impairments. So if I do my search, this one's called Navidis, Navidys. So I'm going to search for elephants again, and you see I get to this page. And again, think digitized text that you can't do with hard copy. You can't manipulate this. I could scrunch it up and throw it out and manipulate it. But now with this app, this is just a fantastic app. I go up. This is for accessing the web. We've asked them to build one for accessing scanned documents and Word documents, but they haven't replied yet. But instantly, I can just select the size of the text, and it modifies that. This is dyslexia, which is the actual font. So every student with this device can be individualizing the font, the size of the font. Here. So dyslexia is actually a font designed for students with dyslexia, and research shows that they enhance their access to information using this font. But I could change it to Helvetica. I can change it to Gill Sans, and remember, individualize. So each student around the room might be accessing through a different font, depending upon their personal preference. So, but the other really neat thing is the distance. I can manipulate the distance between the lines. And Anita, who works with me, she does most of the assessments of students with learning disabilities. And she said she worked with a few students who they could not, with the regular distance, just that feature, so distance between the lines and also distance between the letters and the words. She said with the regular settings, students had just such difficulty accessing this information. Alter some of those settings, line spacing and distance between letters, and they could access it, decoding themselves. They don't need the text-to-speech. You can't do that with this, can you? Am I nagging about that? But you really can't. This is fixed print. And once it's digitized and uploaded, it wouldn't take me too long to upload this to my website, I can manipulate it. How cool is that? I also have other features that I can set. All of these apps have built-in settings that allow you to further individualize. So this is 1144. This is one really important app that is set apart from the others, and that is when you do hand out the hard copy, which is valid. UDL, some kids really like the hard copy and do very well with it. UDL is, again, addressing all learners, except you're going to hand this out and it's not this is the bistro room service menu. Not that I took advantage of that last night, but obviously inaccessible to many students. With Read Iris, used to be a $40 app, now it's down under $10. Very easy to use. I'll just launch it. What I'm going to do, and this can happen with any of your devices, is, because I have the built-in camera, right? I'm going to go to plus. Tell me if it's not working. I'm going to take a picture. And the lighting in here isn't perfect, so I'll use the other example that I had. So I just hold it steadily, take the picture, use photo. It's going to bring it in. And I'm going to go to this one because I know it worked, but it's the same process. Top right-hand corner, I'm going to go out and open in. It's going to scan that. Actually, it's scanning both of them, because I should have selected that page only. And I'm going to open them in an app called Claro PDF, which is very, like it might be 99 cents. And what this allows me to do is now pinch out. So now I can manipulate this, right? It could be a page from a textbook. It also could be a fill in the blank, because I can type on this as well. I can use my voice to text. I can use all sorts of things and then send it out to my teacher via email, which is everything that we're doing in our school system. This is what kids are doing. So I'm going to just show you.
Chef's Sup of the Moment 5. Served with garlic breadsticks.
Probably making you hungry.
Seafood chowder 10.
Is that amazing? How long did it take me to make this accessible? The hard part is keeping the, the thing still. Right. So,
Make changes to the document?
yeah. With Claro PDF, I can type on this. So I can also add my name, Barbara Welsford. Okay, oh, spelt it wrong. So what I could do is just go back and edit it, and that will read aloud as well. So think about a fill in the blank test. I can have access to it, take a picture of that test, auditorily have listened to it. I can respond to it in Claro PDF right at my desk with headphones, and then I can email it out to you as the teacher. So I'm going to embed the annotations and send, and there it goes. B Welsford. I'm going to send that, and it's gone out. So immediate access also benefits students with visual impairments, attention deficit disorder. I can access my dictionary in my test of the room service menu, have it read aloud, and which would create great barriers if I just had presented it in hard copy. This is what mobile devices can do. So 24/7, if I'm out and I need to read something at the grocery store, I can take a picture of it and immediately have it read back. If well, you can think of all the scenarios, on the job, etc. So you probably all heard of Khan Academy, right? Khan Academy is a tremendous resource, free, lessons online that this one is about, what is it about? Well, empires before World War II. So this can read aloud, will speak aloud, and it also gives you the script.
You normally see where you just see the country.
So I can make it larger, I can make it smaller, sorry about that. I have the script, I can share that script out. Or I could download that right to my device, and I wouldn't have to be online, because this requires you to be online. The variety of lessons is huge, and again, it's free. It's a great story. You should Google Khan Academy and what the background is of this particular app, because it's pretty exciting. And the value in this that we do recommend, there's all sorts of apps that have online video tutorials. Those students who need repeat, and who has time to do that repetition, they have access to access to that lesson at their own pace whenever they want, and do it privately. So it really ties in nicely, this kind of feature in these mobile devices, to adult learning.
The goal of this video
so this is another,
since you write down all the numbers in order.
The only thing I don't like about Khan Academy is when they're doing math, they use a really small fluorescent pencil, and it's not visually accessible. You've got, this is math, who teaches math here? So you've got all sorts of these apps. Now you pay for these apps, but again, these are video tutorials. And by the way, with apps like Explain Everything or Educreation, which is a free app, we have teachers actually developing their own video tutorials, 1 minute, 2 minute long, firing them up to YouTube for access to those students. It's actually quite easy to do.
So you said Educreation.
Oh my goodness.
To add the integers,
yeah. So this is just a video tutorial.
5, let's start with a number line.
Okay, so 24/7, that's and at your own pace. So again, ties in nicely. So Educreation, Explain Everything is another app that, there are quite a few of them that does screen capture. So they're used really nicely for math. And I'll just show you an example of one of our teachers. We have many. I'm just going to do a search for her, Amy Peveril. And what she does is make these video tutorials really quickly, easily with an app and immediately upload. She can do it within a couple of minutes. Here's an example of one. Add closed captioning, keeping it nice and simple.
Supplementary angles are two or more angles that
So
add
this is
to
Amy.
180 degrees. So in this example, angle A plus angle B will add up to 180
This is
degrees.
using Explain Everything.
So we know that
app.
angle A is 130 degrees.
Okay,
And we
so
want to figure,
just keep that in mind. You have that other feature of using these devices as enhancing your lessons to those students. In some of these ones of hers, we've added closed captioning. So again, it's accessible to all students and very, very easy to do. So you can tell your students that, you know, here's this lesson. If I'm going to do my explicit teaching, show you once or twice, and then this is where you can revisit it if you're having difficulty. This is an app called Long Division Touch, and it's all about interacting with learning dividing. And I'll just show you. It does have a help lesson, but let's do this one. So I'm interacting with this after I've done the lesson, and I'm just dragging that 12 down. I'm going to see how many times 12 goes into 49. If I go too high, that's not a good thing. I can correct it. But again, and I have to bring 12 down. And notice how interactive and engaged, and I'm really getting it. I think I learned this previously, but. And it has a whole lot of features. There is a free version of those series. If you want more, you obviously have to buy. So math terms, free. Yeah.
There's also one almost exactly like that for algebra.
Yeah.
Which is really good, and you can even input your own problems. So they can input the problem out of the book if they wanted and manipulate it.
Algebra Touch, yeah. So they're interacting. They could be doing it on the bus on the way home, or, you know, you're hoping they are. Again, 24/7 access, and that's hard to do when you don't have a pen and paper. So this one, our teachers love this. When I teach my grad courses, they just swoon when they see this. Is called, I don't know if you saw the app, Math Terms. It's a free app. There's also one called Math Dictionary, and this is basically cognitive credit cards to go. So if I want to find out about angles, it's all in alphabetical order, I can just tap on angle, and I can also have it in Spanish. I can have this read aloud through the speak selection, and it will explain. So it gives you really the definition of all these math terms. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is a free app, and it's exceptional. We're running out of time. I just want to show you some very cool ones. We have the Montessori, if you're teaching basic literacy, there's all sorts of apps for basic literacy, reading remediation. If you're teaching life skills, anyone teaching life skills to adults here, they've got Functional Skills Series app by Conover.
Welcome to the Functional Skills.
And these are all
the video you want to watch.
Video tutorials on related to specific work skills in this case. So
application.
This is free. So you can go over what an application is and have them review.
An application is a form you fill out when applying for a job. The application form may ask you for such things at...
It's by Conover Company. So if you're in the App Store, look for Conover Company and Functional Skills Series, because they have hundreds. Great for students with autism, who we do a lot of video modeling in our board for kids K to 12 on different features. If you're, what?
Is that K-A-H-N or K-H-A-N?
Conover, C-O-N-O-V-E-R. If you're teaching different. Now this might not, I don't know if you teach this in some of your GED or other programs at the adult level, but again, this is an app that's called Frog Dissection. Here's, this will go through the life cycle of the frog. And again, it's an example of the diversity and flexibility of these iPads. Affordable apps that are interactive learning. So I'm just dragging my finger. How cool is that? Like, you're not going to forget that. And you can see the life cycle of the frog when I go home. You can also have videos about frogs. There are interactive activities. And we can
place the specimen in the dissection pan ventral side up. Select the pins from the tools. Pin the limbs to the dissection pan to keep the frog in place.
You get the idea. And think of all the frogs we could save. They're very important indicator species, right? We don't want to...
Use the marker to draw a horizontal line and a vertical line on the specimen.
When I was in university,
Make a vertical incision
we dissected
on the
cats.
Make a horizontal incision above the forelimbs.
Okay.
Now make another horizontal incision above the hind limb. Raise it outwards slowly.
So are you picking up the forceps? Are you ready? Just before lunch?
Repeat the same for the other side. Select scissors from tools and make a vertical incision on the muscle along the midline. Select the forceps.
Here we go.
Hold the muscle with the forceps and then select the scalpel from tools.
Oh, wait. I'm doing
Make a horizontal incision of the muscle above the forelimbs using the scalpel.
Whatever. Anyway, it opens it up and then you can identify the different parts, and you don't have to, if you're the least bit queasy about, I was going to say a live frog, but it wouldn't be a live frog, then that's a, and think of the cost involved in getting in a classroom those animals to dissect. I got to show you some output apps very quickly. We have Pages, iMovie, Keynote, GarageBand, all free when you buy a new device. Okay, so Pages is like Word. Keynote is basically PowerPoint, which is better. That's what I use for all of my presentations. GarageBand are all the different musical instruments. And, but I want to show you, do you guys use graphic organizers, organization for, so Tools for Students is very, very popular in our board. And this Tools for Students, pretty reasonably priced. You have 25 to 30 already made graphic organizers. And as you can see, you have an LCD in a class, or even if you're working with a student one-to-one, you're doing a KWL chart, what I know, what do I want to know, what I learned. I can easily type in my name. I can use the voice to text, right? So it's accessible, and fill all of that in and then export it out by email to the teacher or to myself to use. So those are already made graphic organizers that apply to many different classes. But and one other one that I'll end with that we utilize extensively for students with written output issues, specifically those students who have difficulty with spelling. And their spelling is just so bad that the regular word prediction in any software or device is not picking it up. What's very cool about this app, who knows co-writer software? Word prediction. So this is now an app. It's our most powerful word prediction app and software. We don't really use the software much anymore. And you can get very specific with the word prediction dictionaries that are made. And this is why. I'm going to go up to this little book on the shelf up there, and I've already got, we'll write about Nova Scotia, and let's write about the Nova Scotia. What it's going to do is scrape the web. So I'm writing about a subject, Nova Scotia, and I need support with writing about Nova Scotia, right? Because my spelling isn't so good, but I have all the knowledge up here. So let's write about the Nova Scotia Liberal Party. And we'll also assign one for Nova Scotia. So it scraped the web immediately, and what I'm going to do now is start writing about Nova Scotia. And I have the capability of formulating the sentence. I have all the knowledge. It's just that if I want to write Nova Scotia as a province in Canada, which these students who need this could tell you, and you're going, yeah, now write it. They're picking up a pencil or typing with no extra supports. And what might they be writing? Not much. Or CVC words, or it is a, what?
Good.
Maybe province, if province is written up on the board somewhere. But you know they have the knowledge. So we don't want to evaluate them on what they wrote. We want to give them the assistive technology to allow them to show what they know. So Nova Scotia, I put an N in, which they can get, and it's predicted immediately because I have a topic dictionary. If I'm not sure, I can swipe to the left.
Nova Scotia.
I can swipe to the left and it will read it, that button. So Nova Scotia is I can type it in.
A.
So province, I can just put the P in and it's going to predict.
Province.
How cool is that? So it's not putting words in the student's mouth. It's not cheating because they've already formulated the sentence, right? It's using the supports to show what they know. Is a province in, and I'll put I can probably, and there it is on that fourth. Let's see if I can.
Canada.
Well, you can swipe it before you select.
Nova Scotia is a province in Canada.
Okay, so really it's our top word prediction app that allows students to really show what they know and to share that out button. I can mail it out. I could interface with Twitter because you want to really spell well in Twitter or Facebook. I can put my document to Dropbox, copy it to the clipboard, take it into another app and work from there.
What was it called?
Co-writer. Yeah. Co-writer, all one word squished together. So this is oh, that's not going to work. That wasn't too smart of me. Hold on a minute.
I think it was starting to turn.
Was it?
You had your
It will only go vertically, though. Darn it.
turn it there.
Okay, I'll try again. It won't. No, I should have thought of that. Who has a... Okay, I'll just fix it. These are your handouts, but who uses QR codes here? Anybody got QR code scanner on there? Yeah, so we use that in education as well. If you have all your stuff on an iPad, on the web, QR code scanning app, and students just come up with that scanning app, scan it, and they're instantly at that website. Huge, huge advantage for education. Very fun, engaging. But it's this, maybe I can get this to you in a different way. How are all your other handouts in hard copy? Yeah? We never do hard copy, so.
If we have phones, couldn't we take a picture and then do that feature that you said?
You sure can, yeah. Yeah. But that's the URL in Dropbox, but it's kind of long.
could get them to put it on like the Literacy Nova Scotia website.
I can give it to Marie, and then she can get it out to you. She must have all your information. Because you have that placemat, right, which you might want to access. And I didn't mention all those icons on that placemat. You click on them on a computer or you touch them, and it takes you to the Apple Store and gives you more information on those apps. That's an interactive document.
Is that only if you're working on an Apple?
No.
Okay, so
Well, the apps, the PDF, you can access on any device, computer or whatever. The apps are specific to iPads, iPod Touches, iPhone, iPad Mini. So,
Is there an email we could reach you at too?
B Wells, yeah, okay, let's do
Speakers
this.
just gave us their email and we.
All right, good. B Welsford, WELSFORD @eastlink.ca. Just ask me for the handout link and I'll fire it off to you. Perfect.
That'll include all those apps and everything. you were
Yep.
saying. Okay.
Yeah, there's four or five documents in that Dropbox folder. You don't need Dropbox either. You just need to go to the link and download. And it's in PDF. And share what you want. So, yeah.
Definitely.
But if you're really excited, you can take a picture of that and then scan it later on. That's another nice feature of the mobile devices. You can snap pictures of the whiteboard or chalkboard if you're using it. Yeah, here. Or that, whatever. Scanning apps are free. QR code scanning apps are free, by the way. Any questions? You're all going to go out and get an iPad? iPad Mini?
I am.
It's very...
All of the stuff you talked about, do you know if any of that is available in French? Or is it all English?
Yeah. The Apple Store, the App Store has a French side to it. So, and of course, the devices, these devices, you can change to French, you can change to German, and the whole device becomes available in another language. I don't know how many languages, but quite a few.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was awesome.
Oh, that was
Thank
really
you.
awesome.
So you have my email. If you have any questions whatsoever, just email me.
Yeah.
Thank you.